Hello, everybody, and welcome to Called Up the Prospects podcast. I'm Chris Peters of FloHockey, joined from Slovakia. It's Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects. Cam, how are you all the way over there, across the pond, across the ditch?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. I am struggling with jet lag, and I just raced back from the rink. We are thriving on fumes over here and Slovakian food. So yeah, it's going well. It's going well for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm sad to not be there. It's a rare U18s that I'm sitting out this year, but with the OHL and the QMJHL in their first year in the playoffs with us at Flo, decided to hang out. But one of the things about going over to Europe is that you have to be so prepared because obviously it's a long trip. The U18 is a long trip. You have to have everything. How's your power adapter situation going over there? It looks like you got a nice hotel room, nice little spot there.
Great spot. I'm at the Sheraton. It's fancy. So breakfast isn't quite as good as Gothenburg that we had that one time, but this is the second trip in a row. Oh, that was epic, right? This is the second trip in a row that I brought the wrong power adapter. And you'd think I would have learned from the last time when I was in Sweden in the fall and I brought it and I remembered I had a different Apple plug-in. I just did it again. But this hotel is so nice that they just had one for me. They just gave it to me. Here you go. Here's a new one. It's like, fantastic. So we're doing all right now. We're charged up.
Oh, that's good. Well, I will, before we get into our topics for the day, and we've got plenty to get to, including the U18 Worlds, which you are at and we are going to talk about. My worst U18 World Championship moment was when I was with Team USA, and sometimes you need not just a power adapter, but also like a transformer or a heavier duty thing to get your to protect your electronics. I was working for USA Hockey as a freelance guy, broadcasting the 2014 Under 18 Worlds. Had the sound mixer with me. Didn't plug it into the transformer first, plugged it into the router, completely fried the board. They sent another one over.
Oh, my.
Fried that one. And then I had to go buy a new board, a new sound mixing board in Russia, in Sochi. Had to get a translator, had to get a van, had to get a company credit card, had to call the company credit card to make sure they knew it wasn't a fraudulent charge. And we ended up broadcasting that tournament start to finish. So I got but I fried two audio boards because of my own stupidity. So there you go, folks. When traveling to Europe, be prepared, especially when it comes to your electronics, and carry that extra transformer around if you need it, because that's what I needed. And that was a wild tournament. That was actually USA was going for, I think, 5 straight gold medals or 6 straight gold medals and did not win it that year because of a gentleman by the name of McDavid. Gentleman by the name of McDavid. He was 15 at the time. But we're going to talk about this year's tournament. We're also, Cam, we're going to talk about the CHL playoffs, which you can watch the QMJHL and the OHL on FloHockey, and then we've had some really great tournaments. Landon DuPont is popping off in the WHL as well. We're going to talk about him. Also want to talk a little bit about the transfer portal, starting to see a lot of movement and different things to take away from there because a lot of NHL prospects have moved. Called Up Challenge is back. Beyond Belief is here. And also you have to pick one. So Cam, let's get right into the under 18s because you are there. It started with a bang. I mean, USA lost, Canada lost, Sweden has lost, and they haven't played each other yet. And they've already got losses. You've been on the site. What the heck is going on with the big boys here?
This is the tournament of upsets. And like I said, I literally raced home. I was at the USA Denmark game just now, and it was 1-0 USA when I had to leave at 6 minutes left in the third period. They had 40-something shots to 8 at the time too, but I was like, you just watch. I'm about to miss the greatest upset. And I was putting you on blast. I'm like, if I miss this is we're gonna be fighting. It didn't turn out to be that way. But no, I mean, awesome for Slovakia. The home crowd there in the big rink knocking off the Canadians after doing like an hour-long pregame. They had Gaborik, they had all the stars out. They had figure skaters and girls coming down from the rafters, and they blew it up. And when those kids I thought they were going to like throw their helmets and gloves and stuff like they won the tournament. Like they were so fired up on that. Same with, the Czechs knocking off the Americans, knocking off the Swedes. You know what maybe helped out Sweden? Viggo Bjork. They brought a Wego They brought a Wego, but they didn't bring a Vigo. I think they could have used it. We got a Vigo at home. Yeah, so it's been fun. It's gonna make the quarters very interesting, right? We're gonna see one probably real juicy matchup in the quarters with somebody going home nice and early here. But there's been some players that have been popping. There's been some players who have not that need to get it going. But it's been a wild start so far for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that is going to be interesting to track here, because there are a lot of players that you're like, oh, that's great, and then there are moments where you're like, oh no, this is not going well for you. And we'll talk about all of those players here in a second. But yeah, how about the Czechs though? I don't think there was a lot of high hopes for this team. Now they've beaten both the US and Sweden in subsequent days. Slovakia is the team that beat Canada. I mean, what is happening here with the Czechs? I mean, like, not a lot of star power on that roster, yet here they are just finding a way.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing tight, right? Structurally very tight. They're not giving up many chances. They're not giving up a lot of ice out there. The kid that's probably like been the most impressive is that Matthias Kalik, is it, or whatever? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mikhailuk? I can't say his name. But he's a 2010, I do believe. Big boy on the blue line, really calm under pressure. Like, he looks like he's going to be a stud here in a couple of years. But yeah, otherwise it's just kind of by committee. Like, they're just kind of making plays when they need to, getting a goal when they need it, and playing above their heads. But I mean, that's what you look for at this tournament. These short sprints is that these kids can get on not even on a roll, but if they can come together as a team, where most of these, other than the Americans, they don't get to play together all the time. Some of the Euro teams get to play together throughout the season, but the Americans get to play together, other than like Rogowski and Harper airlifting in. Rogo getting the healthy scratch today too. P.S. We can talk about that. But yeah, they're gelling. They're gelling, obviously, and they're playing tight structurally. So kudos to the coaching staff there too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So the Czechs, we've seen them now at the World Juniors. They're a consistent threat. They've, obviously ousted Canada a couple of times. Here they are beating the two best teams, or the perceived best teams in their bracket, and now are in the driver's seat to win the group. And the other thing I'll say too about the U18s in particular, I've seen it many times. The first game at this tournament, it's less prevalent at the World Juniors, though we have seen it at the World Juniors too. But I think this tournament, the first game is incredibly difficult for the team, because there's nerves, there's tightness, there's just kind of getting adjusted to the experience, the tournament, all those different things. I think Canada is a team that particularly has to build throughout the tournament, which is why I'm not as concerned about them. But USA, having played together for as long as that, having a couple of pre-tournament games to kind of get warmed up, not a good start for them. And this is now back-to-back tournaments where they have just completely underwhelmed at the U18s. And I didn't have high hopes for them to win this tournament coming in. And now it's like, I mean, are they going to medal? And that was the question last year, that, would they medal? And they ultimately did, but it felt like it was going to be, an absolute grind to get there. And now they're in this real tough position, for this. But and the other thing too, just in terms of Canada's makeup, I want to talk a little bit to you about that. What have you thought of the team so far in the two viewings that, you've been able to have? And, in terms of, we're going to skip ahead a little bit here, but like, who are the guys that you just need to see more from? Because that, I think, has been a story for this roster, because there's absolutely talent on the team, but it hasn't necessarily come together as seamlessly as you would hope at this point.
Yeah, I mean, there's a laundry list probably of Canadians that we could say we want to see more from. Number one, I would say Keaton Verhoeff. Not that he's been bad. He hasn't been bad. He's been a little slippery out there, kind of fallen down a lot. I thought he was better in the second game than the first. And again, he wasn't bad in that first game either. He's just, the expectation is that, if he had stayed in Victoria and played for the Royals, he would have scored 30. He would have, he probably would have dominated physically, and he would have been like, yeah, this kid's still number 3, number 4. Instead, he went to the NCAA and he's playing against tough competition, and it was tough for him in the back half. And so now we'll play against like your legitimate age group, not even like U20 in the West. Like it's like U18 kids, and he's not dominating. Like he's not doing the things that you want him to do. And like you said, is that Canada does tend to take a little time to get rolling at this tournament, so it's we are far from drawing conclusions yet. But he needs to be better. I think a little unfair, but a kid like Alexei Joseph has been non-existent, right? And he's supposed to be the real rival to Landon DuPont next year for first overall. And we get to see these kids when they come in a year early all the time.
Yeah.
And we see the guys who pop, and then we can compare them to the kids who don't pop, and we're like, what's going on? Like, remember like Rubric last year, everyone's like, oh, he's going to be like Porter Martone did. It's like, what? Martone put up like 19 points when he played there in his last year of eligibility. And the year before that, I think he had something like 12 or 11 or something, right? Like it's not even comparable. So, Joseph is, it wouldn't surprise me if he comes out of the lineup at some point too. Ryan Lynn has been good, but not excellent. I think he's done definitely enough to be on like the good side of the ledger. Like he's doing well, but I wanted him to pop, like really, really pop out there. So those are a few of the Canadians that I thought Tynan's been pretty good though. I have liked Tynan Lawrence. I've liked Lawrence.
Yeah.
I think he's doing
and he's
well,
needed to play well.
Really
and I think to your point, especially on Lynn and Verhoeff, they were here last year. They've seen this tournament. They know what it is. They know how they need to play. They were good last year. Were they amazing?
Sure.
I mean, Verhoeff at points was amazing. Like that Czech game was one game where he was like, oh, this kid can play.
That was his best.
But they weren't dominant players at that point because they were young, and they were coming in and all that. But now, especially with Verhoeff, you have had your head kind of kicked in by the grind of college hockey. Not like, I'm not trying to say that he was bad. It was more there is less time, there's less room, it's more physical, like all those things. And now you have more time, more space. The game should be moving slower, in your mind. And we haven't really seen that from him. And that's a continuation of what we've seen from college too. And that's a concern on top of it.
I'm with you. And like, it's really interesting because like I'm talking, there's everybody, right? All the scouts are here, like Zach's like, and so I'm talking to like some people and they're seeing it and they're just like, he struggles to make plays under pressure, which is a big red flag for a defenseman in the NHL, right? And the feet aren't great. But then like I have other teams pushing back on me, being like, you guys are like way too hard on this kid. Like he's going to be a stud. And I'm like, I'm at the point now where I haven't seen he's going to be a stud outings in a long time. Yeah. He's still 17 though. He's still 17, but it's like, again, like it's really difficult because like, I really like the kid, right? I really like the kid. I like everything around in his orbit. There's a lot of positive things out there. And so like, I don't want to bring him down. But we have to say what we see. And quite frankly, like, we just placed him at the tail end of the top 10 on our EP board, right? Like it's like, and I think that I'm really curious. I'm going to do that scout poll right at the end of this tournament. Very, very curious to see the divide on him because I imagine it's going to be big, right? We're going to see teams holding strong at 3. We might see teams pushing outside the top 10. It's going to be a wide range on him.
I think you're right. I think that suddenly Keaton Verhoeff is becoming a polarizing prospect where there is going to be, because you see the physical tools, you see all the different things, but then you do see the red flags on the hockey sense component. And that's where a lot of teams are going to take extra pause. I don't, we don't want to harp on all the negative. We'll get to a couple more players that need to pick it up here in this tournament, but I wanted to focus on since we're talking Canada, on a few of the guys that have played well. Because, I think Dima Zhilkin has certainly popped here. He had a great season with Saginaw. He is a guy that's draft eligible for next year. And, offensively, you need a catalyst, and he's been part of that. He's been part of the offensive, the spearheading of the offense of this Canadian team, which for a guy that's draft eligible next year is always intriguing to see, especially at this stage, at the very early stage of the tournament. What have you seen from him?
I love him. I love this kid. He is an absolute menace. And it's like not surprising. We saw him in Saginaw. Like I'm pretty sure he's one of just a handful of kids who put up 100 PIMs while also ratcheting up points too. Like, he is a dog with a bone, and he's got skill. I love this kid. I think he is a serious player. I think he's been excellent. I mean, another kid is Maddox Dagenet. We could call him Doggenet. Like, he is also just a dog out there too. Again, we know this. We know, but he's bringing the heat, right? The reversed hits, getting to the net front, hard off the cycle, getting off the wall off the cycle. Not as skilled as Zhilkin. I think he's more destined to be like a really good energy line player for some team. But no, yeah, Zhilkin for sure. Like, outside of Wyatt Cullen, I think Zhilkin is my favorite player at this tournament so far.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, like, Dagenet for me is one of those guys that I've I kind of started lukewarm on him, and I've really gradually it's the more I've watched him this year, and going back to like the QMJHL Top Prospects game, I thought he really popped there. Like, he looked like there was a separation between him and the other forwards there, which wasn't necessarily a surprise given the where that kind of where the league balance was, because a lot of the defensemen were some of the top players. But he's got the size. He's growing into that physical game much more. Like, I think that's something that he is continually built on over the course of the season. But he does have good hands too. Like, he's got a good shot. He's got the ability to score. He's got some tools where it's like, hey, like, maybe energy guy with some scoring pop, like, that could be a good thing. And with his size, that's another big thing. So he's a guy that has grown on me throughout the entire year. And now to see,
was he a first overall pick too? Was he a first overall pick?
He was the first overall pick in the QMJHL.
Right, so he's got skill.
Right? Yeah, I'd seen something like where he's like, oh, this guy, like, kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, no, he was a dude for a while.
He was supposed to be.
And the issue is that guys take a little while longer to adjust to junior, and now he's. I thought he was great when I watched Quebec this year. So, there's a lot to like about the player. But you mentioned Wyatt Cullen, and he's a fascinating prospect for a number of reasons. He did have the bad turnover on the goal that cost USA their first game, although I don't know that anybody covered themselves in glory on the US team on that entire sequence. Outside of that, though, the signs are there that this is a player that is going to probably go higher than most expected at the beginning of the season.
He got outworked by Santa there, Klaus, on that one play in OT. But man, he has, and so our USA base scout was saying he's like a sore thumb on this team, and he is dynamic. He's got a lot of pop in his skates. He's got kind of like that micro sculling going on all the time, right? Where he's just like constantly accelerating on his edges and like beaver tailing and like wanting the puck and like making plays and firing and like today in just this game, like on that PP working on the left point, like coming downhill, like fully selling shot and then no look cross ice through the seam right onto the tape for the one timer. Doesn't go in. Play wraps around. Back at the point, comes in, does the exact same thing. This time hits the bumper guy in the middle rather than going cross ice, bang, back of the net for Mikey Burchell. Great vision. I love his handles. And in a class like this, where like legitimately it is lacking in dynamic skill, especially dynamic skill with good skating. And he has those. And he's 6'1" now. When he was first going out for the program for that U17 team, and this, he was like 5'7". Like, he is shot up and he's still growing.
Smaller,
right? 5'6". He was so small, and he was like clearly the best player on the ice. But everyone's like, "Well, how's this guy going to play?" Right? Like, he's too small. He wasn't even like LJ, who was like stocky. And now he's 6'1", and he's still growing. Like, teams are over here watching that kid, isolating on that kid, being like, I'm not going to be shocked. If he goes like 9, I'm not going to be shocked. But realistically, I think probably like, right after that top 10 maybe. But the way he's going, teams love to grab a riser like that. Remember Beckett Seneca, right? Like he could pop on draft day.
Yep. I mean, like I think that there's a strong chance that Cullen's going, early. And there's the thing about it is like, I don't know, like if the draft class were stronger, I don't know if that would be the case. He still seems like that guy that would just be that perfect ad right in the middle of the first round where you're betting on upside and you're making whereas I think there is a chase for the higher ceiling in this class because it's harder to find. And you mentioned the dynamic skill that is available in this class, not as strong. Whereas you have a Wyatt Cullen who's just growing into his body still, and dealt with injuries and dealt with things. And like the thing is when a person grows as fast as he did, that could create some short-term problems in terms of the health, the adjustments, the joints, the different things that are going to be sore for a player that's growing as rapidly as Wyatt has. And that's the intrigue, is there's so much of an unknown quantity of where he's going next that I think is going to entice teams to take that chance. But he also had learned a great lesson, because I hated that shift in overtime. I hated it so much.
Yep.
It was just far too individualistic, and also the guys on needed to do a better job of giving him outlets. There were a couple of times where they did, and he didn't take it. But those are the things that you have to learn at this stage. But I think you take the good with the bad, and this is a player that's on an incredible upward trajectory.
Yeah.
All right.
I like
who else? Shout out somebody else, maybe somebody a little bit under the radar that we might not know about, that you've seen, that you've liked.
Yeah, Swedish kid Meyer there, 2027 eligible. Bose Meyer, Bosse, Bose. He's good. Like game one, he was so good. He was so good. Like he's playing on that. He's good, man. He's really good. Like and that's my first time seeing him live. Playing on the first line as an underage, and just pops, right? Got that acceleration, wants the puck on his stick all the time, looking deceptive, feints and fakes and playmaking. And I like this kid. Second game wasn't as impactful, but still jumps right off the sheet. And this tournament, I had high hopes for it. Not a lot of guys are jumping off the sheet with their skill and their speed. That Zareth kid, who's a 2027 as well for Sweden, had an excellent first game. Both those kids look like they've got hard skill as well. Again, he wasn't as good in that second game in that loss, but both those kids. And then how about this kid, Anton Wild, the Danish netminder? The Danish netminder is going to get picked from today's game against the Americans. I'm serious. He put up nearly 50 stops. He played every game for them at the World Juniors, I do believe. He played on just a garbage pro team in Denmark where they went 0-11 when he was starting, but they're a terrible team. I don't know how many games they won all season. This kid's 6'4". Nearly every shot was just getting Velcro to him. He was just sucking everything in. The glove was working, post to post. He got a little lucky where the Americans were kind of banging it into him a little bit on those cross-ice seats. But man, oh man, at his size, with that pretty good mobility, I'm not sure if he's a super athlete or not, but you watch, and I'm going to be tweeting it. 6th round when this kid goes, Anton Wild, that was from that one game against the Americans, because I was texting with scouts and they were all looking at each other and how about this kid? This kid.
Yeah. I mean, he's an interesting one too, because as you mentioned, he played in the Danish Pro League this year. And that's really a tough place to draft a guy out of, just because of, what are you even really getting? You don't really know. And especially when it's a younger player. Now, he's still under contract with the same team for next year, which will be an interesting decision. If he does get drafted, what is that, how much can they get him out of that contract? Maybe get him to a Swedish U20 program or a Finnish U20 program or the CHL or, anything like that, where he could potentially grow a little bit more and get the reps that he needs. And, you look at guys over the years, and that Christian Kirsch is a good example of a player that I think was really on the back of his international performances, was a guy that ended up getting drafted and then, has had a really nice junior career. He moved to the Kitchener Rangers, has an opportunity to play, he's playing in the OHL conference finals now and has had a really good run. Those are guys where you can take that chance. I think in a class like this where, goalies are up, it's really tough to decide which goalies are good. You've got guys that are really good, but maybe don't have the size, like a William Lassell. You've got the guys that have the size, but don't have the numbers, like Noling, there's a lot of different players that you have to kind of look at. And I think in this draft, if the thing is 6'4" goalie with that potential, maybe he goes earlier than the 6th round. You never know. It's just kind of, I think goalies are so tough to predict where they're going to line up or end up. But we'll see. And the teams that have the goalie scouts, I'm sure, have been texting their guys saying, "All right, let's get the video rolling on this fella, because he is doing some incredible things." I mean, I gotta look? What was the final save total today for him versus Team USA? I've got it right here. Pulling it up. So the total saves for him was 52 against the US, just to make sure that we had it 100% locked down. 52 saves for the young man. And if you're searching him on Elite Prospects, Anton Emil Vilde Larson. So that's the guy. That's the guy
third
playing for the Frederikshavn Whitehawks, which, as you know, is
hockey hotbed, baby.
A team.
Pipeline. Yeah, that is a team for sure. But like not easy saves either, right? Like even had to stare down on the penalty shot, although it was Trottier. And sorry, I will say it is that somebody made the joke is that they were surprised you didn't chip and chase on it. On the penalty shot.
Yeah,
he doesn't have grandpa's hands. He does not have grandpa's hands.
A great attempt there, but hey, God bless him. But they're trying hard out there. But the I did want to pause on, like, there have been some other kind of like, moderately disappointing players that we haven't touched on yet among the European teams, guys that are bigger names for the draft. You hate to spotlight them but I mean, this is a critical juncture of their season. Who else is going to need to step up here as we get, because as we record this, we're through 3 days of the tournament, so there's a lot of tournament left, but who needs to step up at this point?
Okay. I've got two names. One, I won't belabor the point too much, is Marcus Nordmark, who, came in yesterday for his first game, but he was out sick. And he said he was like bedridden for like 5 or 6 days. So it's like, I'll give him a pass, where even though he scored and like he made some plays, he had a breakaway where he cut through, a hole and got through the seam with speed and couldn't finish. But like, generally it's like, he's so skilled. It's so frustrating the way he plays primarily. And that's not new. Somebody shared with me that he like, as far as draft eligibles on even strengths points per 60, going back the last like decade, only Bedard has a higher even strengths points per 60. So he's getting some empty calorie points for sure. And like guys, like coaches, like I guess this national team coach thinks he's good and like it wants to work with him, but like, Djurgården, like I don't think he's like well loved, because it's just the effort's not there. So it's like, I want to see more from him. And then the other one is Oliver Savanto. Like you have to produce at some point. You have to. Right? He didn't produce in the Liga. That's cool. Like one of the youngest kids in the draft class at 17, you're playing in the Liga. You're not getting opportunities. Didn't produce, at the U20s again. He's a young kid. He was playing down the lineup. He did play some like decent minutes, but kind of looked to be defensively responsible in the net front on the power play and stuff. He gets dropped to the U20 playoffs there. Doesn't produce again. And it's like, now you should be the best player there. And now you come to the U18s. It's like, buddy, you got to get it going, because like it's quite literally at some point you have to produce if you're going to be like considered a legitimate prospect that a team is going to have to bet on in like the mid-teens here, because like he's strong. He's obviously like very physically mature already. And so the runway on that side of the coin isn't going to be too much. So it's like, where's the upside now? Where's the upside other than like, are you drafting like a grinder? Are you just like throwing in the towel and being like, this is our fourth line center?
Yeah, this is such a great opportunity to showcase the full complement of your skill set. And when you don't, that does raise questions, because those opportunities are fewer and further between for players that play in the pro leagues and that, are getting those opportunities. Now, I loved him at the World Juniors. I thought, the two-way games that
so did I. It was good.
The defensive side and the physicality and the forechecking and those elements were great, but he still had 2 goals, so it's like, it's not like he's really lit it on fire. And so if you're not going to produce at this tournament, if you're not going to make an impact here, then you're going to have some real problems with, and Finland's going to have problems. I mean, that's a guy they need. They desperately need him to be the man, especially when you consider that there's no Hemming and you've got, your center depth is struggling. So you've got, you've got to be the guy. And so, and unfortunately, we have seen this from some of Finland's top players in the last few years, where they just haven't had great U18s, and it hasn't allowed their team to have the success that they probably should have had in these tournaments.
Yeah. No, he's got to show up. He's got to show up. Now, as I say that, like, that he scored today, they're playing right now, playing Latvia. You watch, he's probably got one. Right now.
Yeah, right. I'll give you a quick score check there. No goals.
1-0. No. But he does. Yeah, not for him. None for him.
Yeah. So we'll have to hit the video later and see if there's another way he's impacted the game. The last point I want to make on the under 18 Worlds is let's talk a little USA, because we mentioned they had lost to Slovakia in overtime. Czechia in overtime. They lose, or they win. Probably doesn't feel like a great win. 2-0 over Denmark. Now, the thing that shocks me about that scoreline, and you can get goalied, and that's fine. That'll happen. But what shocks me about that scoreline is, here's a team that had to be furious that they lost to the Czechs in the first game of the tournament. You figure they'd want to have a statement in response, and the statement isn't all that strong. Like, I was watching the game. I watched they had 54 shots on goal, but I mean, as you mentioned, how many of them were from the outside? How many of them were not threatening? How many of them were legitimate scoring chances? And where is that take charge? Where do they take charge there? So I'm gotta say, like, we're coming into 2 years, and obviously we're in this ever-changing landscape, and the challenge to get players and keep players and all those other things, like keep in mind, JP Hurlbert's not here, and he was on the team last year. They had to call up a number of U17 players. They called in 2 guys from outside the program, Levi Harper and Brooks Rogowski, who didn't play today. Rogowski didn't. So, like, what are we looking at here? And what are I mean, is there concern? Like what's happening? Is this just 2 down cycles, or is there something more to it?
I think it's things. I think that it is down cycles, for sure. I think it's also like we're seeing, like, dare I say, are we seeing the end of the program, or the downside of the program, right? Like, so I'm not saying it's going to cease to exist in the next 3 years, but, like, forever it had this aura, right? Like, oh, you play for the National Team Development Program. Like, even if it wasn't one of those years where it was Hughes and Turcotte and Boldy and Caulfield and Spencer Knight and Cam York or Leonard and Perreault and Smith, like, they have those years where it's like obvious, massive skill. And then they had other years where it's like they still had that confidence, that swagger, that they were the program, and they'd beat up on some USHL teams, and they'd hang with some good, pretty good NCAA teams. And now it's like NCAA's only getting stronger, right? Program losing players to the CHL, right? And we saw JP Hurlbert. We're going to see it again this summer. You're going to see U17 kids. We're going to see U18 kids leaving the program this summer. Good quality kids too. And, like, apparently, like, with the bridge being burned on their way out the door by USA Hockey too, right? Like, obviously JP Hurlbert should be at this tournament and would be one of their best players offensively for sure. But he's not, because they're not happy that he left to go play in Kamloops. So now they're going to be weaker, and they're going to be playing these NCAA teams. They're going to just get, like, dog walked by them. So it's like, well, there goes all the confidence. And, like, I hear, like, guys like in Dubuque or, like, Omaha are, like, chirping them for even playing at the program right now. So I think, like, the confidence level is, like, at an all-time low for USA Hockey at the program. And everything's changing, right? It's like, if this new NCAA rule kicks in too, like, it's all sorts of things. Like, the 5-year rule, I do wonder if the days of, like, the program being the program are behind us, and that they're going to have to reevaluate how they do this.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I obviously I worked there. I had time there. I feel a certain way about the place, but, I would say that the thing is as long as the NHL wants it to exist, it's going to exist. And as of right now, that's what the NHL wants. There's a big source of funding and everything like that. But the other thing is, though, once the consistency wanes, then I think it starts to change the dynamic a little bit. And, right now, with the situation being what it is, and the kids that played at the program have always been chirped by the USHL, and they were chirped by the North American League guys back in the day when we were having those battles and just like, oh, nice cage, all that stuff, But oh yeah, yeah, for sure. It was fun times back then. There was quite a few guys that played in the NHL or had NHL careers did play in the NAL back then, but yeah, so it's been, and it's been a tough cycle here. And on top of that, it's showing up the World Juniors. We saw it at the last World Juniors. Now we're going to see it at the next World Juniors. That might be the worst roster that the U.S. has ever put at a World Juniors. Maybe. We'll see. You never, I guess, like in the modern era of when they've had this great success.
Yeah.
And not, you don't want to go into Canada with less than, and they'll have some good players, but let's also look at some of the players that are getting the buzz for the top of the draft. It's Chase Reed, Nikita Klepov, who's a dual citizen and potentially could have been at this tournament if he wanted to be, but I think there's still that holding out hope for Russia. But I think there's a number of things that are gonna change in this landscape. Now, the one thing I will say, Cam, is I think that this 5-year rule might actually help the program a little bit more than some of the other places, because of preparing guys by the time they're 18 with those college games in the U18 year. That's a hugely valuable tool that they have because if you want, at this point, the pressure to be ready for college at 18 has never been higher. And so will college programs adjust to this new rule that way? Or will they take some players where they might only get 3 years of eligibility? There's a lot of things on the table. What I will say is that every program in junior hockey has to prepare for this new rule in college, because I do think it is going to impact them significantly, because I think colleges will start asking players to come earlier than they ever have, and in wider numbers, which is potentially a very bad thing for junior hockey. We will see where that goes from here, but landscape's changing. It's crazy. It's wild. But yeah. Well, Cam, while you're gallivanting in Slovakia, some of us are slugging it out here in North America, watching the CHL playoffs. And last night I was up very late, watching a bunch of different things. But the big thing was a 4 overtime game between Blainville Boisbriand and the Moncton Wildcats. Blainville wins it in quadruple overtime. Insane game. Rudy Guimond, who is the goalie for Moncton, had like over 60 saves. It was wild. It was the 5th longest game in QMJHL history, and I'm shocked that there are more that were longer. Game started at 5 o'clock Central Time for me and ended at like 10:30. So that was a fun night. But what I wanted to why I call that game out is not because of the result, because we're the Prospects podcast, where team results are what they are. This was a tremendous showcase for 2 of the best offensive defensemen in this draft class, Tommy Bleyl and Xavier Villeneuve. And one thing I'll say, so Villeneuve and Bleyl both were factors in the game throughout the entire game. Villeneuve scored in the game. Bleyl was all over the ice. I mean, those 2 guys did not look like they had played 4 overtimes. They were still moving pretty good out there when a lot of guys were really skating in mud. But it's really interesting that these are 2 guys that, when Central Scouting's list came out, they were fairly high alongside Ryan Lynn. Like, that was a group that was kind of clumped together. But man, I'm starting to become, and the more I've watched Tommy Bleyl, I will say, the more of a believer I have become in Tommy Bleyl. Interesting player, maybe one of the better skaters among defensemen, or best skaters among defensemen in this draft. That's a separating factor for me. Then you got Villy, who's probably the most dynamic defenseman of the draft.
Yeah.
I mean, what are they doing out there in the queue? We got these 2 like little clones here of like trying to play the modern NHL with speed and skill and defense kind of some of the time.
Yeah. I didn't watch that game. Obviously, I might have been sleeping.
Yeah, you were well asleep. I hope.
I hope so. I probably wasn't, or maybe I was out with Wheels and some other people too. But I don't know about Tommy Bleyl. I know that he's got like this cachet and he's got a lot of helium here late in the season. And like, don't get me wrong, that kid can flat out move. Like, he can skate. But like, if you took him And Villeneuve, we switched him, and you put Villeneuve on that Moncton team. How many points does he have? How many points does he have running on that Moncton top power play? Like, I think when it comes to intelligence and dynamism and his like puck handling and his ability to break ankles, and like, let's not even talk about defense right now. It's like it's night and day. And so I think Bleyl has great wheels, but we've seen guys who have really good wheels that don't do much with it, right? We've seen defensemen who have good wheels that aren't like top tier offensive producers, and sometimes they don't even become players, right? But I do think he's going to be a player. I just wonder if this kind of late season hype is too much. And I've gotten myself into trouble with this in the past, is where I haven't given enough credit to late season pop and on my list. And so at the end of the season, and then some of these guys like look really, really good, like Mo Sider, right? Like Beckett Seneca, like I wasn't as high as like, that high, and it's turned out he's excellent. Right. But sometimes I feel like, and then sometimes it gets overvalued, I think too, where someone, it's like, oh, he has a really good end of the season. And it's like, yeah, that was just like a pretty good end of the season. But this one I think is like more manufactured. I don't actually know if he's that much better now than he was early in the season, or if just people are now noticing how good of a skater he is, because that's it. Like that is his defining skill set.
That's his bread and butter. That's his bread and butter.
It
but
is.
Here, I do think that he has
push back grown. On me.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna, because the thing that I've seen with him is, I do think that he's stronger. Like, I think he's gotten stronger on the puck. Like, I think he's making better decisions with it. He's processing the game at pace, which I think is really, if you have that skating tool, you've got to be able to do it. Now, do I think he's got like when I look at, and I mentioned Ryan Lynn earlier too, and I say, okay, well, if I'm going to give a hockey sense edge to Lynn on all three of those guys, among those three guys, I'm giving the skating edge to Bleyl, and I'm giving the skill edge to Villeneuve. And the thing about Tommy Bleyl that I'm noticing more is how he's learned how to use his skating, because I think that was one of the things that he didn't necessarily have at the early stage parts of the season, where, he could beat guys wide, but now he's got more lateral movement. Now he's able to kind of pick up pace going east-west, and he's given some more, getting pucks to the middle of the ice pretty well. And, I think of he's not Lane Hudson, but one thing that I think Lane Hudson does so exceptionally well is get pucks into the mixer, basically. Just get pucks right into the middle of the ice, into the slot. We've seen that with Tommy Bleyl a lot more. Now, that's easier to do in the QMJHL than in some of these other leagues that we've seen. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. You also have to think about the fact that here's a guy that just kind of came out of, prep school last year, was kind of on the USHL track, decides to go to the Q, goes to a wagon of a team. And I will say, like, Villeneuve had great players around him too, and the Blainville power. Like, I think Blainville is massively underachieved this year. Relative to their star power. But man, like, it's fascinating though to see these two guys, and we're going to talk about them, versus each other. So I don't want to get too into the weeds about the separation between the two until a little bit later. But I would have not had Tommy Bleyl in my first round for most of this season, and I am probably going to have him in there, and probably a bit higher than I even thought I would, based on what I've seen in the playoffs, because I think that the defending is fine. It's not amazing, but there's more. He's more than just a good skater, which is what I thought he was at the beginning of the season as well.
All right. So that's fair. We're gonna have to battle on this guy. We will. Yeah. I'm gonna have to chew up some more tape of his playoffs.
Let's maybe have to pick one of them. Let's pick one of them. But the CHL playoffs though, it's been crazy. You got Brantford and Brantford versus Brantford versus Barrie, the alliterative one, and that was a great first game between those two teams in the OHL. You've also got Kitchener versus Windsor. You've got over in the Q, you've got Blainville versus Moncton, which we said. Rouen-Noranda against Chicoutimi, which has been an absolute wagon this year. Those are all on Flow Sports, and then of course you've got the WHL happening elsewhere. So we go, Cam, to our next topic here. And I just want to buzz through this quick. The transfer portal, wide open. Players are moving. Things are happening. Number of prospects, a number of UFAs. a number of goalies have moved teams. It seems like they're all moving to the Big Ten. But the big ones that I'm just going to throw out here, Cullen Potter going from Arizona State to Michigan State. He's like, yep, I'm running it back. We're going back. He was initially committed there.
Why not?
As a young fella, wanted to go early. They said, we don't have a spot for you. He goes to Arizona State. Now he's going back to Michigan State. Interesting. Sasha Boumediene.
I like it.
Sasha Boumediene, leaving Boston University, going to Ohio State. So Ohio State getting a first rounder in their mix there. Justin Poirier, Carolina prospect, has not picked his spot yet, but he is in the transfer portal. Minnesota has been raking in the portal, Cam. Austin Bernovic is joining his coach, Brett Larson, over there. But they also added Evan Murr, who's a UFA to watch. I think a guy that NHL teams are going to be keying in on at Minnesota next year. Wisconsin has been very active in there. JJ Wiebusch. Alexis Cornet, the goalie from Cornell, who's a Montreal draft pick, is going there. So there's a lot of players that are going to be really interesting to watch. But the transfer portal, I mean, it seems to be more of a funnel than it is a wide net here, because a lot of the top prospects are choosing to go to the Big Ten, and I think that that's going to continue to be a theme.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of Minnesota too, I think keep an eye out for Terrence Smith coming there next year as well too. So another defenseman, a highly skilled defenseman out of Everett. So yeah, you're right. They're doing very well in the portal, and they needed it. We've talked about it a little bit in the past too. The portal is, guys are like straight up losing jobs. Right. Like, and it's a unique situation now where it's like, sorry, you have to go into the portal. Not like, hey, this isn't a good fit for me. I'm not getting enough minutes. I'm going to go try elsewhere. They're like, hey, you're done. Like, we want to recruit X, Y, and Z over here. And we've already recruited this guy who's going to come next year, that you just don't have a spot. And so now if they haven't already broken the record for most players in the portal, I'm sure it's broken the record. I'm sure it's the most ever.
Yeah. Well, it's way more than last year, already.
Year over year. So. And that was the record, I think, last year. So we're probably just going to have it annually broken too. So it's really interesting how, guys, the season of choice is upon us for players, right? But the Boumediene one is interesting. Obviously he was like pegged to have a very, very big role at BU, and you don't often see guys leaving BU. I did hear a little whisper that perhaps didn't get along with the coaching staff so much there too. So maybe just something to keep an eye on there, because he's a very good skating defenseman. Very good skating defenseman who doesn't do a whole heck of a lot else otherwise too.
Not at this point.
Yes.
Scoring, he scored a big goal at the World Juniors. And I think that's the thing is, like,
he's not a bad player. Yeah.
No. And there was actually, Cam, there was a really interesting story in The Athletic about the football transfer portal as it pertains to the NFL draft. And I thought we could talk about that here very quickly too, because NFL scouts voiced to Bruce Feldman in The Athletic that they were frustrated with the way that the portal has changed player development. Like, players are not staying in a place long enough to really get a foundation of skills built up, and they're becoming more mercenary-like. And now the NIL situation in football is drastically different than it is in hockey. It's not quite like that, but there is something to be said about continuity, coaching, having the same, getting the opportunities, having to fight for your opportunities, having to go through the adversity of not playing as much and then going through. That's something that, is a personal development thing. And I do think that that's going to continue to be an issue. If you go to a program and let's say you're not getting the playing time and you decide to go elsewhere, maybe that's the right fit, because yes, you need to play. And if you're trying to get somewhere, and maybe it's just, hey, I just want to play. I don't even care if I'm going to the NHL. I just want to play. That's an opportunity as well. There's a lot of different reasons to go in there, but I think players have to be very conscious about where they're committing to initially, because there is a path forward. And if you stay there, it's probably a better situation. Now, there are plenty of schools that aren't losing guys to the portal, except for guys that are way down their lineup, like Michigan. Michigan's not losing players to the portal. Wisconsin is not really losing players to the portal. They're keeping players and they're gaining players. They're adding. So that's been really interesting to see. But I do think that there is a potentially negative, net negative for this whole thing. Continuity, the quality, the fan experience, all sorts of things are there. The only thing I really care about, though, is are the players benefiting? Are they making the most of this? And I think that in a lot of cases they are. But again, you don't have to like it. Like, I'm not, you don't have to like it, but it's still it's going to be an adjustment. I think the players that battle for themselves a little bit more maybe are setting themselves up for a better future as well. But a really good article in The Athletic about the transfer portal, and I just think, like, understanding it from a player development standpoint, I see a lot of parallels at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my last thought on it is just like how, again, parroting what David Carl told me a couple of weeks ago. It's like, get out of youth rinks, stop committing kids at 15 and 16 years old. Not only does it not make sense in this new landscape, but it's also like these kids are basically like making themselves like RFAs, where if they wait, now they can be like high commodity UFAs, right? Like it just broadens opportunity for more choice. And like, can you play for me next year? Great. Let's talk about it. Can you play for me in 4 years? Well, check in 3. Like, let's just move those goalposts way up tighter, right? And I think that's the future we're looking at here.
I hope that's the future too, because I think that everybody's trying to get theirs, which I understand. Like, everybody's trying to get their spot locked in. But the thing is, that spot might not be there. There's less loyalty than there's ever been to that level of commitment. They're like, hey, that's great. You've been committed to us for 3 years, but this guy that scored 60 points in the O last year is now available to us and is ready to play right now. Like, that's going to happen for and that's the hard part of this. And as you mentioned, a lot of guys are just simply losing jobs. There are fewer seats at the table now and more players that are available. So this is a significant time. And if we have this 5-year rule, that's a 5 and 5. You could actually play 5 years of college if you wanted to. That's not, you can play a 5th year of eligibility. So like, then that creates an even chunkier pipeline where things are like chunked up and difficult. But that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. All right. Well, Cam, we can't let the people wait any longer. We must give them what they want. And what they want is the Called Up Challenge. And today we are going to challenge each other with players that were drafted in 2023. We're going to give each other some context clues for that player. And you got to try to get it in about 6. If you get it before that, then you are expert status and you win. So, all right, you are ready? I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm going to channel it. I'm going to send the good vibes over to you. Okay.
All right.
The youngest player in the draft, selected in the 2nd round, since being drafted has played in 4 different leagues. Okay, 4 different leagues, 4 different levels.
Okay.
Saw NHL action this year.
Okay.
Feeling good about that?
How many clues have we burned through?
2nd round pick,
4?
Youngest in the class, 4 league. Yeah, we've gone through 4.
Okay.
You need more?
I do. I think I do need. I think I need one more.
This might give it away. Well, I can't remember what my other one was now. All right, I'll just give it. He's a Swede.
I had a feeling he was a Swede. Yeah. 2023 Swedes. 2023 Swede. Youngest player in the class has seen NHL action this year. Youngest Swede in the class. And the 2023 is the Connor Bedard draft.
Correct.
Youngest player in the draft, the Swede. Man, this is escaping me, and I'm miserable about it. Let's see here. Just trying. Not, when you
got one more for you.
Okay, all right, I'm ready for it.
I got one more for you. He's played in the World Championships for Sweden.
Oh, he's played in the World Championships for Sweden as a 2nd round draft pick. Played in the World Championships for Sweden as a 2nd round draft pick. Whoa!
Not even last year. The year before.
Holy buckets! Why am I blanking on that? Should be a dead giveaway. That should be a dead giveaway for the youngest player. And all the listeners who love watching me squirm or hearing me squirm or are probably like screaming at the top of their lungs what this is. Oh man, so he's a Swede.
I'll give you another one. I'll give you another clue. We loved him in that Gothenburg World Juniors, sitting next to each other in the high risers in that Frölunda barn. We loved his game. Super smart.
Loved his game.
Super smart.
I mean, there were a lot of Swedes that I liked. There were a lot of good Swedes in that.
There was.
So yes, that would make sense. So yeah, so I'm trying to think. Man, this sucks. I suck.
Lexan?
Why?
Okay, I'll give you one more. Oh
my gosh.
This is Carolina pick.
This is upsetting.
Carolina pick. Come on. Carolina
pick for Sweden. Oh, hang on. It's coming to me. Now. It's coming to me.
You got it.
Yeah. I know.
He's got three names. Double last name.
Felix Ungersoren.
No hyphen.
Jesus.
There it is.
I feel that you did love him. He is one of those guys, he's such a Carolina pick too. Gosh darn it.
Yeah, oh god, yeah.
I totally forgot that he played the Worlds though, but yeah, I mean it makes sense because he's a guy who can fit in a lot of different roles. Man, I hate myself for that one. I'm giving you I think mine is easier for you, but that hopefully will allow you to.
Well, I did. He went pick 60 or something, right? So that was a tough one.
Yeah, the second rounders, it's just they all start blending. Really, they start blending together once they're second rounders from years over years. It's just okay, yeah, these are the second round pick. But anyway, well, yeah, somebody's going to be yelling. I'm gonna get a very angry text from at least one Finnish person about that. So, even though he's
never
looking forward to that one. Looking forward to that text. All right. All right. Here we go. The first clue for this is that he was a first round draft pick in this draft in 2023.
Excellent. I like that.
He ranks third among all players in the draft class in games played.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he ranks third in the class and in games played, NHL games played. All right.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. He has more penalty minutes than he has points. That's that's a throwaway clue. That is a throwaway clue. That's not going to help anybody. All right. He was a top 15 pick in the first round.
Okay. I hope so. If he's third in games. Yeah. How is he third in games? Because it's I'm thinking this is Bedard, Carlson, Fantilli. They should be 1, 2, 3. No.
Yep, but
maybe not.
Nope. This one has 10 more games than Leo Carlson.
10 more games than Leo Carlson, eh? And he's got some PIMs and no points. He's not putting any points up on the board.
He's got. Well, no, that's the thing. Is he's just got too many. Not a ton of points, but more PIMs than points, which is not the case of anyone else in that group.
Okay. Okay. All right. Give me another one. But I'm starting to feel some tingles on somebody here. Somebody who's a dog.
Debut. He made his NHL debut on opening day of that following season after his draft.
It's my boy Zach Benson. It is
Zach Benson. I knew
it's got to be Benny.
You're okay, wait. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
When you're saying he's getting points too, but also penalty minutes, I was like, what?
Yeah, so he has 138 PIMs and 101 career points. So, so he's
wow.
He hasn't really scored Bedard has 203 points, 148 PIMs. There actually is one guy in that mix of the top 5. Michkov actually has more penalty minutes than he has points too, which is actually kind of hilarious. 117 PIMs to 114 points. So,
gosh. I wasn't even thinking Zach from that draft class, but he's so good.
Yeah, but you look at that draft class and you look at the guys that Leo Carlson, Will Smith, Ryan Leonard. There's going to be guys that are going to be massive players here in these next couple of years. Fantilli, obviously, and Bedard and all those guys. But yeah, so the called up challenge once again. Cam succeeds, I fail, and it's so crazy. I think it's got to be old age because I maybe need to start taking some more vitamins or something to increase my
And you're
brain power, 'cause
significantly older than me too.
Yeah.
Right? Significantly older than me. I said you're significantly older than me too, so that's like a valid excuse. Pretty sure what? Are we the same birth year? What are you, an 85? 84?
Yeah.
84. See, I'm an 86. I'm a baby. I'm still just a child over here. Yes. Yeah.
There we go. 84, best draft class. There's a reason I didn't get picked, Cam. It's because I was in the most crowded birth year. The 03 draft would have been my draft.
Who is it? Who is 84? Oh, 03. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
84 is the 03 draft. Yeah. And a few 85.
Well, I mean, like I had to go up against Sid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I didn't. He was an 05. Yeah.
87. Yeah, he's an 87. So
he's an 87. You got the late birthday or something?
Yeah, there were some guys. Ovi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ovi's decent.
All right. Well, after embarrassing myself thoroughly once again, let's get to beyond belief and let's get to the statements that we read each other and decide whether or not they're believable or beyond belief. And I'm going to start one off, and I think this will be an interesting one because we've talked about it already today. Wyatt Cullen will be a top 15 pick in the 2026 NHL Draft.
Totally believable. It's a weird draft class. It's a weird draft class, and I think that he's got the juice that teams are gonna like, especially once he that D run kind of gets settled, and one or two centers go. I think that he's going to be chomping at the bit.
Yeah, it just seems like this is a year where anything can happen in that first 20 picks. Really, I mean, like I feel like we have a fairly good idea of how the first 8 or 9 will go, like in terms of like it's probably a similar level of players, but definitely not.
No idea.
I mean, like not in order by any means, but like
okay, good.
We know, but who knows? Honestly,
yeah.
Can't wait for those scout polls to come out, where everybody's like, I don't know, maybe a guy.
Yeah,
I've got
we'll take somebody
statement for you that's going to get to this in a minute. So let's go.
Good.
Let's go to the next one.
Okay, Keaton Verhoeff will end up doing more harm than good by coming to the U18s here.
It's trending in that direction, which makes it believable, and that's a bad place to be. And this has happened before. Players, the expectation level for this tournament has lowered significantly in terms of like what it actually, the competitiveness of it. And if you're not a dominating player, even if you're playing on a team that you're not familiar with, even if you're playing in a situation that isn't like 100% catered to you, you gotta perform. And Verhoeff's draft stock has been in a downward trajectory over the course of that. Like his end of the season was not very promising. He was sparingly used at the World Juniors, started to get more ice time as the tournament wore on, but like there just wasn't enough there. And so now here's your chance to be the man for your team. And he hasn't been that yet. So very believable for me.
Yeah. It is. It's believable. And it's like, it's funny. It's like, our players gonna like start saying no just because it's like, well, I can't do myself any favors. Probably it's gonna be harder to do myself favors, and I might end up hurting myself like on my draft stock. Although, do you remember how we were like kind of cooking Frundell last year? He wasn't very good, right? He wasn't very good, and it certainly didn't hurt his draft stock on draft day.
Yeah,
but the public perception of him took a hit for sure.
The public, and it was like suggesting that he could be the top 3 pick was like blasphemy, and that's the thing is like I think this tournament, this tournament can be a burden for sometimes, but I just the thing is like Frundell at least had flashes and pops, and I think we've only seen very few flashes and pops of Verhoeff of what his full capability is, and I don't think like the whole thing about going to school too, like he could hang at the NCAA level. He didn't dominate. He didn't do, like there wasn't anything that suggests like he could hang, but it exposed elements of his game. And that's the risk that these players are going to continue to run when they make those decisions. And I think it's still, you should probably be applauded for making that bet. But at the same time, now when you have an opportunity to erase some of the doubts, you can't increase them when you're playing within your own age level. So like we talked last year, Did Jake O'Brien not going to the U18s hurt him at all? Probably not. Like he decided not to go last year. There were some guys that were critical of that, but not to the point that it was going to knock him out of the top 10. And I don't know that we'll see Verhoeff fall out of the top 10, but certainly is he going to be a top 5 pick? Probably not. I don't know. We'll
certainly feels like a couple guys have passed him. Yeah.
I know. Well, which brings me to my next beyond belief statement, Cam. And it's a drum that maybe I've beaten like I've been feeling a little bit more like it. And as the year has progressed, my feelings haven't changed. This draft class just isn't very good.
It's believable. It's not, but next year's and the year after that, and just wait until 29. Oh! We got to get the hype train rolling early. No, it's not. It's not that good. It's not that good. There will be good players. There will be exciting players. There will be star players. There will be guys that are picked in the 60s or 50s, and you're like, damn, that turned out to be real good. But generally, it's not a very good class, I don't think. It's slightly below average. How about that?
Yeah,
it's very much below
average.
Like,
I think the thing is like it's all relative, right? And I think you go into it with a certain level of enthusiasm about the player pool, and then you learn more about it later. But I think I haven't gone into a draft as uncertain about the number of players we're going to see come into the fold and be everyday NHLers. And I also haven't seen a lot of players that I get excited about. Like, and I think that's the thing is like, even last year, as you get closer to the draft, you're like, okay, I'm starting to get a little bit more excited about, we couldn't get excited about Schaefer because he wasn't playing, but you had guys like,
I was excited,
Frundell for, it would go up and down. Then you had guys like Seneca or not Seneca. You had guys like, the different players, Caleb Denoye, like others that like that.
Yeah. Brady Martin, Porter Martone.
Porter Martone. Yeah. Like you're just like, and this year it just, I don't think that anybody has really gotten me super pumped. So, so good news, all you draft fans out there. The draft guys are like, and if we're saying it when our jobs are like, hey, let's build some enthusiasm for the draft, right? Then you know how we
still get the guide. Still get the guide. Definitely get the guide. Though you're going to find
exactly.
all the
still,
gems.
Do the research because hey, we're putting in the work to try to figure out which of these guys are going to pop because we know that they will. We know that they will. So we'll still keep putting in the work.
Come to Buffalo, have some wings, help fill out that barn for us. Do your part.
What's that even?
Okay, last one,
man.
It's gonna be bare bones. They next one. Okay, let's go a little positive. Let's spin this puppy around. Hey, let's end on a positive note because I put that out there. Landon DuPont, 30 points in 20 career playoff games. Now he's matched his total from last year, 15 and 10. God, he's so good. The most by U17 defensemen in WHL history in the playoffs. No one's ever broke more than 20. And he's at 30 now. And so I had somebody say, are we slapping the G tag on this kid? We saying generational? Landon DuPont is a generational defenseman. Yay or nay? Come on, Chris. Next year's class is special. Get excited. Is he generational?
Beyond belief.
Yeah, nice.
I'm going beyond belief. Maybe, and you can disagree with me, but here's the thing. Generational, I think he's awesome. I'm excited about him. I think he didn't have a great start to the year, but he had a tremendous finish, like just out of this world. I think he's an incredible player. He's a tremendous skater. I love the way that he, thinks the game. I am really excited about him. I think he's going to be great. But if you're going to ask me, is he going to be better than Matthew Schaefer? I don't know. Is he going to be better than, like the generational tag is obviously been more liberally used. And I think that's maybe where I draw the line a little bit. I think he's going to be special. I think next year's class is exciting. I think that he's exciting. I was saying the same things about Gavin McKenna last year, and I'm not all that. I think he's a good player, but I'm not excited, you know? So I don't know. What do you think? I'd love to hear your take on it.
I think it's beyond belief as well.
Or beyond belief?
I don't think so. I don't think he's generational either. And I'm kind of like a crotchety old man with my 86th birthday. Is that I do think it should be reserved for like the very, very select few. And like, I could throw it right back at you. Is Matthew Schaefer a generational defenseman? Because I love Matty Schaefer, and what he did this year is like historic.
Pretty nuts. Yeah.
But I don't know if he's generational either.
Right. And
right? Like, I don't know if I'm willing to say that he's generational.
Yeah. Did we know Cale Makar was going to be what he was? Do we know Quinn Hughes? Like in terms of like, yeah. And it's like, who is the defenseman of this generation? We're in a great run of defensemen at the present. So
great run. I think you look at Makar and Hughes, and it's like, that's as close as we've gotten. And are we willing to say that Lane Hudson or Matty Schaefer are going to get to that point? Maybe. But I don't know if I'm giving any of them the generational tag. I'll give him a G tag, though. He's great. Great player.
He is great. He's great. Yeah. He's G-rate. I like it. That's great. I feel good about that. I think that was good. But you know what? Like I said, we're in a really good time for defensemen, and there's a lot of defensemen in this current draft class that I am excited about. There are guys that I think are going to be fun, and guys that I think will be impactful NHL players. Two of the guys that are going to be a big part of the debate as we get a little bit further down the first round board are the two guys we talked about earlier when we were talking about the QMJHL playoffs, and that's Tommy Bleyl and Xavier Villeneuve. So I'm going to you have to pick one, Cam. We're going to our you have to pick one. You've got two defensemen, QMJHL defensemen, point-producing machines, skilled, doing lots of things, won a lot of awards in their careers in the QMJHL, Tommy Bleyl being a rookie this year. Mr. Cam Robinson, you got to pick one. You going Xavier Villeneuve, or are you going with Tommy Bleyl?
People are going to be shocked after all the things I've said earlier in this show when I picked. No,
well, now you get to make your case.
Yeah, and so I'm going to take the kid who has just the highest upside. Like Villeneuve has, you mentioned it already. He has the most dynamic stuff in the class. The break your ankles, make you miss at the line, work laterally, and there are guys who can do it, other guys too. But he has that je ne sais quoi, that ability to really break down defensive schemes, make them miss, walk in, hit a seam, finish it himself, right? Like he has that. He has that ability. I think he actually has a bit of a B game that he doesn't get credit for. Like he's competitive. Like he's competitive too.
Yes.
Like he's not good defensively, but he is competitive, and you need that at his size with that offense. And so like I've long said this, I've said it on this show. I think that in order to play defense in the NHL, you need to be smart and you need to work hard. I think that if you have those two things, you can figure out how to play defense at the NHL. And then if you can create offense, you're going to get a lot of leeway too. So I'm taking that. I'm going with my boy Zav. I do think there's risk attached to him. Absolutely. Especially if he goes early, which I don't think he will. But if he ends up going at the tail end of the first round, it's like easy peasy, lemon squeezy, which is where probably Tommy Bleyl is going to go to.
Yeah. So, I mean, this conversation has evolved throughout the year. So I'm going to take the other side of the coin here. And I'm believe me, I'm surprised that it got to this point too, but I'm going Tommy Bleyl. You give me the choice between the two right now. I'm giving the slight edge to Tommy Bleyl. They're going to probably be neck and neck on my final board. And these are two guys that I have a lot of intrigue, like just interest in. And I hope that they work because they are a lot of fun to watch at the junior level. They're both, like we'll see, like Tommy's definitely going to college. He's, committed to Michigan State. Zav hasn't announced anything. We'll see, but I think that there's a strong likelihood that he ends up in the NCAA as well. And so then you've got, we'll be able to kind of compare these guys as we go through the years. But what I think the separating factor for me is, one, you've got Tommy Bleyl's right shot. He's a little bit bigger. He's gotten stronger. I think that he has the ability to change the game in terms and change shifts and dictate pace with his skating ability. I think he's learning how to use the puck work that he has, that it's not at the level of a Xavier Villeneuve, but it is good enough to distribute pucks well, to make plays. He can recover well with that skating ability. He's gotten that strength. he doesn't necessarily make the big mistake as much as I think Xavier does. Xavier is probably one of those guys that is so confident in his abilities that he thinks he can make pretty much every play. He's learning and will learn if he does go to college that that's not the case. But I do think that, like, when I look at the players, so you give Bleyl a little bit of the size and athleticism advantage, a slight one. And I think that I was concerned about the hockey sense before. I'm less concerned about it now. I think both of them think the game well enough and have the confidence. But I do think, for me, that elite skating ability, and I think there's more to it than that, but I think that elite skating ability is one of the things that's going to separate Tommy Bleyl and give him that little bit of a ceiling advantage, I feel like, versus the hand skills that we see from Xavier, which is elite, tremendous hand skills. I can't wait to follow both of these guys because, as I said, like it's a razor thin margin for me. But if you give me the choice today, after what I've seen the last couple of weeks and what I've seen over the course of the season as a whole, I've got to give the lean to Tommy Bleyl, which I did not think would happen even 2 months ago. So that's the nature of the draft season, Cam. That's the nature of it. It's like, let guys kind of rise and fall. And like, talking to scouts, they're like, hey, like, he was playing in prep school. He didn't look like he was an NHL prospect then. And now he goes to the Q and all of a sudden it's like, and he's on a good team. You take things with a grain of salt, but you still are like, there's something there, like you don't get 80 points by accident, like it's insane. So I can't wait
if you play for Moncton.
Though.
Just kidding.
Oh man. Yeah.
If the Gardner McDougall effect.
I would have definitely gotten drafted in 03 if I had the Moncton.
Right?
I just throw my stick on the ice and just let it hit it. So but yeah,
20.
Tremendous season. So we're going to have some fun with that. Well, Cam, you are in Slovakia. You will be there again next week when we gather, but it's an off day. So we'll be able to get together and enjoy talking about the medal round and everything else that's coming up. But what else do you guys got going over there at Elite Prospects?
Well, the draft rankings just came out. We did that on Sunday. We hammered out the board. I was hiding in a corner of a rink while my kid was playing a spring hockey tournament. A lot of fun. It's got some spice. I know most people probably have seen it now, but that's, if you haven't checked that one out, we top 100 plus honorable mentions. We're cranking out millions of scouting reports right now. I've got the Ryan Lynn film room coming out in a couple of days here. Obviously, I'll be doing a couple of pieces on standouts and breaking down the U18s as well. And then a Vigo film room. Where the film room season is already rolling. It is rolling hot. So yeah, go check that out if you haven't already, where we break down these players' individual skills using tape, obviously using film to showcase exactly what we're talking about and really kind of showing the ins and outs of how we assess these players.
Yeah, love to hear that. I think there's a lot of great stuff coming up over for us on FloHockey. It's playoff season, baby. We got the Calder Cup playoffs, the Kelly Cup playoffs. We've got the OHL and the QMJHL playoffs. We've got the USHL playoffs. It's all happening, and it's all going on FloHockey. It is trophy season indeed. We've got some great games for you. Really looking forward to that. So make sure you get that annual subscription. You'll be able to get the entire postseason. You'll be able to lock in a limited time deal where you can get the value of the monthly subscription. How about that? Instead, if you pay that annual subscription, it's like 9 months free. So you get all this season, most of next season, and then you get into the playoffs, and then you renew, and then you're like, hey, I don't know what I did. I couldn't live without this before. But yeah, I watched all 7 periods of that Moncton-Blainville game, and that was also available on our Amazon Prime channel, FloHockey 24/7. So make sure you check that out as well. Last thing here for me is there is a ton of NHL Draft focused materials that you're going to see on FloHockey's YouTube page. So go to YouTube and go to search FloHockey. We've got tons of prospect highlight videos that are coming out. We'll have a number of features coming out. We'll have some other things like mock drafts and stuff. Like Cam and I will probably be talking mock draft once he gets back from Slovakia, because the draft lottery will have happened. So lots of things coming up. Make sure you check out our YouTube page where you'll get a lot of those extra videos that you might not be able to find anywhere else. That is going to do it, Cam. I hope you have a great time over there in Slovakia. Slovensko, just enjoying yourself and enjoying the hockey. And I'll be watching from afar. But we'll reconnect next week and maybe get a little more insight into what happened over there in Slovakia. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Called Up the Prospects podcast. For Cam Robinson, I'm Chris Peters. We'll see you next time.